Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inclusion Starts Now, the podcast. I am so excited for you to hear about today's topic. If you have been in the education field for a while, or if you're new to it, you might have heard of something called ABA therapy. And it is a pretty hot topic as some people have had really bad experiences with ABA. Um, and I mean, as any practice could possibly just be used incorrectly. So I talked to two ABA therapists that I have met through social media, and they really broke down what ABA is, how they run their practice, and red flags to look for if you are looking into ABA therapy. Um, so enjoy the conversation that Mel, Karina, and I had, as I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed talking to them. Also, this episode is brought to you by Breathing Pals. I just got these cute little Breathing Pals. This is a koala. If you are listening to this, you cannot see this. I apologize. And what this little guy does, he's very little, fits in like the palm of my hand, and you turn them on, and they have different lights, and they fade in and out to help kids feel regulated. So it does a breathing, fade in, fade out, and you follow it so you breathe in and out. And you can pick the colors, or you can just do a setting where it's a night light and it'll automatically go off in 2 hours. But they're just so cute and they're like squeezing. I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone, but that's me squeezing it. They're very durable and cute and helpful and just so simple, yet they can help with so much. So if you ever have a hard time kind of getting your child to focus on, some breathing strategies, Breathing Pals is the way to go. They'll be linked below for you to go check them out. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. When I reached out to you, I didn't know if I was going to be lucky enough to get both of you to come or if like you guys just switched and took turns. So I'm really happy that you're both here. Uh, can you introduce yourself to the listeners?
I'm sure because we are basically people see us as like a package deal. So they're like, oh, I wonder if we're gonna get the whole package. But I am Karina, or Mel's other half, also known as one of the happy behavior girls. I am a soon to be first time mom. So if you see me lose my train of thought or take extra deep breaths, we're just gonna blame that on the pregnancy. Just fair warning.
Oh, yeah, I
Um,
am 100% there with you.
Okay, yeah. No, like right now I'm like I feel like corona or something. So yeah, so if you're wondering if I just ran a marathon, that was probably Mel, not me. She loves to run her marathons. But Mel and I have been friends for over 10 years, and I would say that we got even closer about 8 years ago when we started to work in the same field, which is ABA. So we went through our master's program together, worked in the school with kids together, studied, had vacations. I've become the godmother to her baby boy. And we really have grown so close over the years. And I would say about 2 years ago or so, we started the whole idea about happy behavior and how we were going to get started. And it basically was from a conversation about how we saw that there was such a need for parent support. And that's pretty much how happy behavior was born. It has evolved so much since then, but happy behavior really started when we saw that there was such a need for support for parents. Typically, there
Hmm.
are parent training sessions in ABA therapy, but if your child is not enrolled in ABA, it's hard to find that support. So once your child is in ABA, it's typically usually because they have an autism diagnosis. But what happens to those parents that don't have a child that has a diagnosis, or if ABA therapy isn't the right fit for their family, or if they're just looking for someone to, whether it be to guide them after just receiving a diagnosis, help them navigate behavioral challenges, or just need someone to listen to them and
Yeah.
vent. We started um, happy behavior because of that for those parents that need that extra support. So whether it be during their lunch break via Zoom or after bedtime and the kids have gone to sleep, hop on Zoom and provide that support. Like I said, happy behavior has evolved so much since then in the short span of the 2 years. But I would say it's still what drives us every single day is to provide that support, apart from providing the support that we do to our littles and our learners. But I'm sure Mel can explain a little bit more as to how we've evolved and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was an awesome like a little intro, and I think that a lot of it has to do with how we evolved, right? And how, now we're lucky to do teenager support, virtual teenager support for individuals on the spectrum or individuals with ADHD, etc. We also provide trainings for schools and daycares, learning about behavior. And I wanted to talk a little bit about ABA, right? And what
Yes, and
is
I would
the
love,
science?
I was just going to say that was going to be my first question. If you could describe, give like an intro to ABA for people who might not know.
Yes. Yes. So ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis, and it's basically the science of behavior. And it's a branch of psychology, but what its unique perspective or point of view comes from the view that our environment shapes our behavior or has an impact on our behavior. So, all in all, ABA is kind of a perspective where we are seeing that stimuli in the environment can affect our behavior. It can increase behaviors, and behavior is everything that we do, anything that's observable and also not observable, like our thoughts and things like that. So it's all about using the science of behavior, and ABA therapy is using the science of behavior to help individuals better their quality of life and gain skills that mean something to them. And that's the important part.
Yeah.
Skills that mean something to them, not to anyone else.
it can be something as simple as teaching a child to communicate their needs rather than crying when they're frustrated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's so many ways that we can use the science of ABA and ABA therapy. And I'm sure you've heard of, all of the negativities or misconceptions about ABA. And while we definitely do not want to ignore that, there have been so many providers who have not implemented the science the way that it's supposed to be. And it's important for those people to speak out because there's now a lot of, autistic adults that are coming out and saying that they experience trauma in their ABA therapy because of their providers. And if it wasn't for them to speak out as much as they are now, I feel like our field wouldn't have evolved to what it is today, and how many providers there are out there at this moment that are providing compassionate, neurodivergent, affirming care
Yeah.
to clients. Now being aware, like, oh, wow, the techniques that they were using way back then, or not even way back then, just a few years ago,
Yeah.
um, that is not affirming. And let's change that. And that is something also that Mel and I took into account when we started to provide direct services to our learners and listening to those voices that were once not heard. And now that they're adults and are able to communicate that, it's a beautiful thing that we are now learning. And it takes the right provider to kind of have an open mind about it and say, okay, yes, I'm in this field and I don't want to be associated with that. So, not that I'm just going to ignore what they said, but I'm going to change the way that I provide services and be more affirming and respectful of our 2-year-old client. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Yeah, and I mean that's what whenever because I've had plenty of conversations about ABA and yeah, when I hear all of this, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like neurodiversity affirming, like it's neurodivergent affirming. I assume to mix all those words, all the words up. Um, but it seems supportive and helpful, and it's like, we're giving you the accommodations and the support you need to like access your community, which is like what we want, which is like inclusive. Um, But so I don't know if you guys saw, I did put a poll up in my stories the other day asking people what they thought of ABA. And the people who said that they didn't like it, a lot of the, I mean, other than what I've heard from self-advocates, I've been hearing, and this I did not know, so I would love for you to explain this part of me because I absolutely detest anything to do with insurance. Um, but I had some families tell me that like the ABA therapies would say like you have to do 40 hours a week. And then if they said no, then like the insurance wouldn't cover it and they couldn't get anything else. Like people wouldn't be budging on that. So would you say that's like people who aren't doing the practice right or well?
I
And
would say that they're like waving a red flag in your face if they're telling you that.
I mean, that's what I kind of thought. I was like, are there other people who can offer you ABA therapy? Like, why? Like 40 hours a week? I'm like, that's a full-time job. Like, that doesn't make any sense. When do they go to school? Like, when do they do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it has to do like when you see those comments about 40 hours a week, and those are experiences that people have lived through and are it's a challenge. It's like,
Yeah.
online you hear sunshine and rainbows about ABA, but then you go to a provider and they're like, we need to put you 40-hour week or vice versa, right? Being in the social media world has opened us up to a lot of
Yeah.
um feedback, I would say. Okay,
What a
so
positive way to say that.
yeah, so we get kind of drilled a lot, and I feel like it's necessary. We don't
Yeah.
shy away from the tough conversations, and like Karina said, we acknowledge that like is ABA abusive? It has been. It can be, right? It all depends on the provider and what ABA's power or effect lies in the beholder, right? Whoever is applying the science to
Yeah.
someone. If it's ABA therapy, again, I want you to think of ABA kind of like the umbrella term. Kind of ABA is just a science, and we can use it for many different things. We can use it for businesses, for marketing uh, things, or we could use it for so many different categories, right? ABA therapy is seen, quote unquote, as the gold standard for autism treatment. Do I agree with that? I don't think so, because again, as time progresses, we learn, there's research, there's so many things evolve, right? And what I'm trying to get at is if you are going, if you get like given a 40-hour week prescription or recommendation from a behavior analyst, as a parent, you don't know what to do. You're not in the field. You don't know if this is appropriate or not, or, this is a professional telling me that I need to put my 4-year-old son into a 40-hour week clinic that I have to drive to and from every single day. And I just got to do it. Parents are desperate in that way, and who knows where they are in their diagnosis process or even in their own, mental kind of health, or where they are at mentally with everything. So just thrown into this world, you get a prescription from your doctor for ABA therapy. We do some assessments, and then here you go, 40 hours a week. We'll be here. Start on Monday. And it's like, I guess I got to do it. These professionals, they know best, right? But that's not the case
Yeah.
because one, ABA, no child should be prescribed 40 hours a week. They're children, right? No
No,
child.
no
And
child.
yeah, and a lot of it too, like when we have for our direct ABA therapy kind of department at Happy Behavior, none of our learners have 40 hours a week, right? I would say like our average is like what, 5, 10 most right now. Again,
Yeah.
it's different for different needs, accommodations. Um, if we have severe challenging behaviors, that's obviously a different conversation, but it all really depends on the provider and what type of ABA is given. And it's sucky to say it that
Yeah.
way, but it's kind of like um kind of looking for a therapist that you match with and that your values align
Yeah.
with them, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And another important part too is with the insurance. With the insurance,
Yeah.
it's this medical model of disability where we are zoned in on deficit-based thinking instead of strength-based point of views or perspectives. So even though you can have the most neuro-affirming provider, someone that is responsive, someone that is safe, someone that's not changing or conforming or helping others mask, if you're building insurance, you get into this sticky situation where your treatment plans have to abide by some type of standard for insurance where they require you to be very explicit with deficits, challenges, and how is autism becoming, or not becoming, but how is autism a barrier for this client in order to get approved services. So it's another kind of hoop you have to go through. And to someone that is not doing responsive or safe ABA therapy, they're just like, okay, I mean, I'm doing what the insurance is telling me. This is
Yeah.
right, you
And
know?
that's interesting because it makes me feel like the system is like forcing us to have like this ableist mindset to get the support that like our kids just need. That like we have to sit there and be like, well, let me tell you how horrible autism is and why we need ABA, which is like not so I can totally this I feel like this is really the first moment that it has clicked to me that people have this like strong feeling of not liking ABA because yeah, every time I've talked to a behavior therapist, I'm like, nothing seems bad here. It seems like the problem is like the person you're getting the service from. And it makes me think of like inclusive school or like schools where they're trying to like practice inclusion and people are like, oh, it was this horrible experience. This kid hit me. And I'm like, okay, so that's like an experience. And I don't want to say that wasn't, like that happened. And I want to like support you for having to go through that, but that's not what it all looks like. Like there's so much more to it than like this one bad experience or, but it was pretty interesting, like how many different parents told me. I mean, I guess like, so you guys have this service where and is it just the two of you or are you like or are you like a part of a bigger organization or it's like, it's you two, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
us too. It's Mel and I. Yeah.
So like where are all these other organizations? Like do doctors just like recommend a group? Like how do people find, well, I know they'll know how to find you who's listening, but like how do people find ABA therapists like in their area if they need to do like in-person services?
So it can be many different ways, right? So when a child just gets a diagnosis of ASD of autism, ABA is kind of the first thing that will pop up when you type into Google, what do I do? My child just got an autism diagnosis. And they'll start looking for places in the area. Um, as far as our clients, it's basically has been word of mouth, advertising on social media. That is pretty much how we have gained our, our families that we work with. But I did want to go back to the 40 because I know I'm gonna
Oh
finish my
yeah.
the 40-hour a week thing and about how companies will do that based on the insurance thing and the money thing. And then Mel went into saying something about like the providers, but I did want to say about providers. It is common to have a great provider. And when I mean provider, I mean, let's say the RBT, which is the behavior therapist that is providing the direct support to the child. Let's say they align with the family's values, they're a great fit. However, just because I pictured myself in these shoes, which I am the first one to admit, I remember having a client of my own in the first company that I ever worked at, and he had 40 hours a week. At the time was 19 years old. I assumed that that was the norm. And I remember sometimes going to the homes and I just like I worked with the kid for so long. Um, and the parents would say, hey, like, what do you think about the goals that are in here? And I would say, you gotta talk to my BCBA. But I remember leaving the house and being like, first of all, why does he have so many hours? 40 hours is such a long time. He would have 20 hours in the home and 20 hours in the clinic.
Yeah.
So it was like his full-time job. And so sometimes it may be hard for a family to understand that they have that great provider, they have that great relationship with the therapist, but the company overall, and if they're seeing that, well, we like her, she's a great fit for my child, but he does not need 40 hours a week and he does not need these type of goals in there because there are a lot of red flags that we can talk about as well as to what to look into treatment
Yeah.
if you see things
And
like go
and
ahead.
I think what you said, Karina, is something that I don't think we've ever kind of expressed it, but now it's like, oh, light bulb.
Yeah,
When
that's how
you
it was
said,
like.
yeah, Karina and I talk all day, every day, and it's been like this for like years. So I feel like I can read her mind, and I'm like, my God, this is a new piece of information that we haven't talked about. But that dynamic is very interesting because I want to break down the service kind of chain for ABA. There is a company that hires BCBAs. And on the insurance side of things, BCBAs are the ones that write as a board certified behavior analyst, you do the assessments, you speak directly with the parents, you create the support plan, the treatment plan. Um, and from here, there is an RBT, which is someone that is a registered behavior technician, and this person implements the said plan made by the BCBA to the child. There can be multiple RBTs per client, per learner, but that's kind of how it goes. So the BCBA is required to supervise minimum of 5% of the hours the whole month or a month, yeah. So the BCBA is kind of right here, and then the RBTs are a little bit under, and they are implementing the direct therapy every single day. The BCBA will go once a week or twice a week if you're lucky. This is a traditional setting. Twice a week if you're lucky, and just supervise, speak to mom or dad, be on the computer. That's kind of the it's
The
not even a
rules.
misconception. It's just kind of
Yeah.
what it looks
And
like. It shouldn't.
do
Go
the
ahead.
RPTs get like any say or like any opinion? Like, do they share their opinion with the BCBA of like, hey, this is how this is going, or I don't think this is needed? Like,
I think
They
it
what's that
depends.
they,
relationship?
I think it
they
depends.
should
They should. Yeah, it should be a collaborative team effort where
with
caregivers,
yeah,
everyone.
caregivers. Yeah, just because RBTs are the ones who spend the most time with
Mm-hmm.
the child than the BCBA does. And when the BCBA does go, usually parents will take advantage of that and be like, so this is happening. So da 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 da, and they start talking back and forth, and it's almost like the
Like
RBT in
you're
the
not
back
even
is like,
there.
BCBA, hey, by the way, I just started to observe this new behavior that's been happening the past 4 days. I've been collecting data. What do you think about adding it into the program so we can start, working on this? Or so
Yeah.
yeah, so it should be how Mel said, like a team effort with parents, caregivers, the BCBA, the RBT, everyone should be included in creating that treatment plan so that
Yeah.
everyone's on. Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think of the classroom, like the special education classrooms that I have been in, where the paras, especially like one-on-one aides who are working one-on-one with the kids, like just like how different it's kind of like this weird hierarchy that is in these settings. Um, and I do feel like it's really hard to navigate just how to communicate these issues, like how to be like a team and like all be able to communicate the needs and like find a compromise like all together. I also was at a school once where there was a case manager who like did all the IEPs, and then there were the teachers who like basically gave them the data, and then paras who worked the most with the kids like one-on-one, but they weren't like at the IEPs or anything. Like you barely even got their opinion. It was really the teacher's observations that got to the case manager. And I just like, I mean, I know as when I was a one-on-one aide, I'm like, I'm the one who has like the most information. I like, don't you want some sort of like just a blurb from me about like how he's doing
Yeah.
based on of his
You
goals?
should, as they should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like
I
as
mean,
an RBT, I was an RBT for many, many years, more than a BCBA, and it really depends on the company that you're at, and that's why for happy behavior, we wanted to put a whole stop to that hierarchy or kind of
yeah,
that dynamic because it's not fair to the RBTs that are dealing with a lot of different things, going into someone's home every single day. You know, driving to and from different houses, and I think you can talk a little more, Karina.
Yeah, and sometimes even like during our sessions with parents, we'll have like grandma come in like on Zoom and be like, "Well, I've been seeing this." And it's like, "Okay, so now we're going to take from everybody because that's what we should be doing, just like in the school
Yeah.
setting, the parents have the right, but we want to get everyone's opinion, and I think that is the best way to support because at the end of the day, it is like teamwork, to get
Yeah.
to where we want to be and to help best support our learners. If it's not just, me working one on one with the learner and then at home it's just like, oh, well, that's just something different. We just do
Yeah.
different here. We want to make sure that everyone's on board and get everybody's opinion in mind.
And I love that. I love that you just said that because I am definitely one to like I just want to get things done really fast sometimes. And so I know like, someone else wants to give me an opinion. They're like, "Well, that's not what the child does with me." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't you barely see them. I don't care." But in reality, it's like, okay, no, that's how they're acting with a person that they're not that close with. Like that is important if we are trying to like figure out, specific behaviors or if it coincides with the goal. Um, so, Mel, I think this was you. You were talking about red flags. I would love for you guys to tell me what you would say, like, what are the biggest red flags for people looking into ABA therapy and looking into companies to work with? What would you say are the biggest red flags and green flags?
I think if you are a parent and you are on the phone with a case manager for, or someone that's from the company, and you're asking about the ABA services, what is required, and they say all of our sessions have to be in the clinic. All of the sessions. You have to, it's mandatory. There's no we can't come to your house. We can't do community things. Schools different per location, per state, and even district. So that you would have to do some extra research. But if they say all of our sessions are in the clinic, I think that's a little bit of a red flag. I think you should ask more.
And because you
You're
think that it should also be available like in home?
One, I do think so, and I think that the goal for ABA therapy is to generalize skills, and by generalizing skills, it means that we need to present these
Working.
skills and
Yeah.
learn these skills in different environments. So in a home environment or out of the park, outside of the clinic, I think if you come across a company that's very, very hard, like hard, no exceptions on the clinic environment, you have to think, is this
Yeah.
appropriate for my child? And kind of think like, okay, if they're not offering me this flexibility and I want someone to come into my home, what they're not offering it to me. I'm the caregiver. What type of flexibility are they offering to my child?
Yeah.
So just I would say warning, just think it through and ask questions about it.
Yeah, another red flag too is also how we were talking about the group effort. If a provider and analyst is ignoring parent input, that's a red flag. You should, at the end of the day, as a parent, you know your child way more than we do. You
Yeah.
spend all the time with them. So if a company is ignoring parent input, red flag. If they are focusing on um, compliance over, collaboration, that's also another red flag. The 40-hour a week that we were talking about, red flag. There is no
Mhm.
need. He is not working at like Publix for 40 hours. He is a kid who should be in after school activities, hanging out with his brother or sister, playing in his front yard, and then maybe even having his therapist join him playing in the front yard or going to soccer practice with him.
Oh,
Um,
I love
so
that so much. I'm
Also,
always
like
pushing.
reduction of stimming.
yeah, stimming is a big one.
Oh,
If you're eliminating
stimming
Oh,
stimming
reduction.
as a goal, red flag. Stimming,
Eye contact.
yeah.
Oh my God, I have a whole list. If I if eye contact, trying to, teach someone to mask, basically, like, eye contact can be very uncomfortable for neurodivergent individuals. So
yeah.
if they are teaching your child to, or wanting to teach them to when they have a conversation to provide eye contact. That's not a little bit of a red flag. It's a very big, humongous red flag.
And
The stimming.
yeah, this may sound like there's no way, but trust me, there are people out there who will claim that that has been said in the past. Oh, our ABA treatment, therapy will cure your autism. If you hear that somewhere, that is a red flag. We are not curing autism. There is no need. It is not a sickness. So if you hear that, that is a red flag, as well.
If they do, and this can maybe get a little bit technical, but have you heard of the procedure extinction?
No.
It's basically when a behavior is happening, or like not a behavior, not any behavior, like a challenging behavior, maybe like someone's raising their hand, or not even challenging, like I'm just raising my hand, but pretend that I'm raising my hand, but no one's like answering me. That's just, you're putting an extinction to it. You're not giving it any attention, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a parent and you receive a treatment plan where they're using some type of extinction, but they're not replacing or teaching a replacement behavior,
Hmm.
then that's a red flag. No behavior should just be, the goal shouldn't be to just decrease a behavior. Every behavior serves a purpose. So we need to find a replacement behavior to that's going to functionally communicate what they are asking for
Yeah,
in a
serves
safe
the same
way. Yes,
Can
that
you say
serves the
that
safe.
again, Karina?
function. Find a replacement behavior that serves the same function without it coming out in a way that is challenging behavior. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you just
Yeah.
cut out, so I didn't hear you.
And
Yeah.
it's also what is a challenging behavior? Challenging behavior is any behavior that interferes with their safety, with someone's safety, with other people around their safety, with the environment, harm to the environment, things like that. So crying, you know, because you're sad is not a challenging behavior. You're expressing
Yeah.
your emotions. You tell me that you don't cry when you're sad, you know. Also, I I feel like this is kind of like our happy behavior protocol, but like planned ignoring for like attention seeking behaviors. I'm like, give that kid a hug. He wants a hug. You don't want a hug when
It
you're
makes me
sad.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this is so great because I mean, and I think this is a lot of just issues in general, that language is, it's fickle. Like there's just a lot of different opinions and biases of like just so many things. But I mean, like just every person who even like responded to my story about ABA therapy, I really hope they get to listen to this, because everything you're saying, I feel like I don't feel like that's what everyone does, but I feel like that's literally anything. I mean, people could say that they're an inclusion specialist and like not be neuroaffirming. Like it's interesting. I mean, and I've been diving a lot into culture recently of like how to make changes in like a culture. Um, because it does feel like these words get power, and then within that, like people who identify as like working or being in that like culture, it's like interesting how we like kind of fall, like how we agree or disagree, and like how are we able to communicate those issues. Because I am definitely on the side of social media where I follow a bunch of I feel like ABA therapists who are on yours, who agree with you. And so when people tell me that there are so many people out there that are like, telling kids to like mask, or, trying to teach them to mask or stop stimming, I'm like, who are you? Who? Like, who, where are these people? Because I don't see them. And I'm very happy that I don't see them. But and it's very like nice to know that there are so many therapists out there like you guys who like are supporting people and like actually giving them the resources to like, you know, be included in their community. Um,
And
I was,
unfortunately, it's still happening. It's not that it was something that was happening way back when. Like right now, I have no, I didn't even tell you this. This actually happened yesterday. I have we have a happy behavior client in a school, and in the classroom there is another child that has his RBT in that classroom as well. And the way that I just wanted to crawl into a hole and like just just be there for a while. She was working so hard on forcing eye contact.
Oh,
And it was the look at me, you need to look at me. And I kept wanting to be like, can you just stop? Can you just stop? And so I just started to think like this is as much as we see on our social media side, the same thing that you're seeing, that everyone is pretty much like on our page and doing things the way that we're doing, it's still existing to this day. And there was another so this classroom has quite a few RBTs, BCBAs in the room. And there was another BCBA in the room who stepped in, that's not even her client, and was like, hey, there's other ways that you can work on grabbing his attention without forcing him to make eye contact. Let me explain to you what it's like when you force an autistic individual to make eye contact. And went off. And I wanted to be like, yes,
wow.
queen, amazing.
That's
And I,
awesome.
yeah, and I was like this close away to like stepping in. And I feel like her and I were looking at each other like, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it? Who's gonna go in first? And she went in and I was like, oh my God, thank you. And the RBT was very receptive to it. And I mean, she was a very young girl. I'm sure she like had just started and was basically doing what I'm sure she was taught, right? And then what I was taught all these years ago is not, I'm
Yeah.
not doing the same things that I was taught. I have evolved and educated myself and have listened to the autistic individuals that have come out now. Um, so I'm hoping to see if I see her again, maybe next week or whatever, and see how if she, changes anything. But yeah, this happened just yesterday.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
that's like the best way to learn is like out there doing it. Cause I mean, I don't think I ever, I don't know. When you think about like yourself growing up and like how many times it's like, one, two, three eyes on me, or like how often people would be like, okay, can you like look at me? Do you see what I'm saying? And,
mhm,
um, yeah, cause even with my own kids now, I say like, it's usually like I'll ask if they can hear me, or I'll be like, okay, if you can hear me, put your hands on your head. Okay, go wash your hands. Like I'm trying to do things instead of like I can't even like think about how I tell kids to look at me anymore because I feel like I've tried so hard to get that out
mhm,
of
And
yeah.
when you just said that example, oh my God, sorry to cut you off. You just
No,
said that
I'm good.
example of look at me, or if you can hear me, touch your head and then go wash your hands. This is a little example of how ABA is everywhere. And in the ABA world, that's called behavioral momentum. So it's easy, easy, hard, or not wanting to do. So when you tell a child or someone like, okay, touch your head, okay, touch your nose, that's easy, right? Okay, let's go put on your shoes, you know? So
Yeah.
that's just a behavioral principle, but it's like I said, I use ABA all day, every day. I don't even know. I don't even, realize it. And
Yeah.
and so does everyone. So ABA as a whole is not the problem. It's the way it's implemented.
Yes. I actually talked to this other I want to say he's a student. Maybe he's like in grad school. And we were talking about it and he was like, we really do this like on each other. Like we're constantly like even if we're not trying to, it's like, if you and I think about my partner all the time when I'm like, he does the dishes and then I'm like giving him all this extra love and I'm hugging him and I'm not trying to like put that together, but I'm like, look, your behavior got like basically a gold star. Look at what just
Yeah,
happened without
green.
actually physically giving him a gold star. Um, but he said it so beautifully of just like how I mean, and kind of what you guys were talking about too, like how much our environment affects like our behavior and like people. Like we don't know how other people are going to respond to their environment. And so we're basically just all these like, you know, people trying to figure out the world of like, how are you going to respond? Because I'm going to do something. And then if that makes you mad, I might freak out because I don't know how to respond to you yelling at me. And it's just like this whole thing.
Yeah,
Um,
there's so many
yeah,
variables, and everyone's so unique and different, and that's why ABA has to be individualized. No treatment plan looks like someone else's. It's not copy and paste. It's what's
yeah,
going to work for you is going to work for you, and then it might not work for me or the next person. So, when we have our parent support calls, a lot of it is understanding behavior, and a lot of our parents in that department of happy behavior, I call it department, but it's just me and Karina, like doing this. But we see a lot of we have most of our families that are solely virtual parent support don't have a child with a diagnosis, or just want some guidance in how to understand behavior and find and decrease challenging behaviors, or just help their child communicate easier, better, in a safer way. So that replacement behavior. And it's just we see their little like faces light up when we talk about the four reasons for behavior, and like, okay, what can we do to not have him tantrum in aisle
yeah.
5 at Target. And it's like, what, I don't know what they want, and we'll break it down for you. So it's just the science can be applied to many different scenarios.
So what are the four reasons for having a behavior? Or is this paid content that we're getting now?
No, oh my God, the more the merrier. So we call it the functions of behavior. And any behavior that I do, like me drinking water, is a behavior. Um, And there are four functions to them. And I remind myself, or like I have a little acronym. It's called EATS. Eat, eats. Sorry, or do you use seat, Karina?
Eats.
For the seat? Okay, well,
Eats.
we're
No,
okay. What do you do?
the eats. But what the
Oh, eats. Okay, everybody eats. Yeah,
yeah.
everybody eats. So escape is the first reason. Escape or avoidance, right? So like I'm getting out of here. I don't want to do this. It could also be attention or connection, however you want to call it. Like us posting on social media is attention seeking behavior. Nothing wrong with it. It's just what it is. Um, T is tangible. So access to something, like I wanted my iPad. I want a cup of coffee, whatever. And then we have sensory, and that's all sensory stimulation or automatic behaviors. Things like stimming, like I'll, click my pen. Or when you see someone tapping their foot. We all stim. I stim all the
Yeah.
time. I stim 24/7. But yeah,
So
those are the four functions of behavior.
yeah, so we could use, let's say, for example, the behavior is, let's just say crying, right? Crying. So we need to understand what is a function of this child's crying. So if they're crying because, let's say, it's for escape, you just presented, you have this whole project to do. Oh, start crying. I'm gonna get out of here. Start crying, start crying. Like, oh, so that maybe the parent will like give in and be like, okay, well, you don't need to do this anymore because you're crying, and let me console you, and then we can maybe do this next week, whatever. They just got out of it. They use that crying as a form of escape from the task that was just presented to them. Let's
Hmm.
say it is they want that the lollipop in Target. They start crying. That is because they want access to that lollipop and parents deny them access. So the function of that crying behavior is for access to the tangible, um, or whatever it is. Because we also can say like, because now that I'm just thinking of the acronym, the eats, the
Yeah.
access also, we like access to tangible.
Yeah, I just put tangible.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you can cut this part out where we're,
yeah.
we're like trying to like decipher it in our heads.
Because now I'm like eat, and then I was like, what? I had two A's, and now I'm like,
But but going back to your crying example, child is crying because they don't want to do the project. Okay, what is the replacement behavior? We don't want them to cry. That's also distressing for them internally, and they feel bad. Okay, what is an appropriate way for them to escape this project? Oh, mom, can I just do this tomorrow or something?
Yeah.
Obviously that's easier said than done, and we have different a
mhm.
list of things that we have to do to teach that skill, but that's a skill that we want to work on, right? Self-advocacy, or
Yeah.
asking for a break, requesting for a break. So that's where the goals come from. We see what's kind of like, not, I wouldn't say like challenging, but see what is like a barrier for this person or individual, like crying at the store or tantruming because they want a lollipop. We don't want them to tantrum. That's also not safe. They can get, if they're on the floor, they can get run over by a shopping cart or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
sorry, my mind, guys. Um, but it's like you want them to be able to get their needs met in an appropriate, safe way.
Yeah.
So that's what that looks like.
Yeah. No, I
But
think that's
and it could
great.
be multifunctional too, which is a whole
That's what,
other
yeah,
thing.
that's another podcast.
No, I love this conversation so much. I feel like behavior is a really tricky thing. Um, a lot of, I mean, and what I've been saying a lot to people who like get really overstimulated when kids are dysregulated, is that I like try to explain how to like the caregiver, it could feel like you're in this flight or fight mode because, you know, a kid starts crying or screaming and you're just like, well, I know personally for me, I'm like, oh my God, are you hurt? Like, you know, I'm like tense because I'm scared that like they got hurt, someone hurt them, or you know, like who knows what. Like it's panic, and then I look over and it's like you know, spilt their milk, and I'm just like, oh my God, like that would like I just freaked out, and you know, this happens like throughout the day, all day. I'm a stay-at-home parent with two small kids, and
Ah,
and
twins.
so I explain this to people all the time that I'm like, you know, and it just like, I know for me too, it's just so much better to like help them now. I mean, they're like 4 and 2, they're very little. And so early, I mean, they'll cry and I try, like, I usually, if they're like crying to get attention, that's a big one. Um, like they're like frustrated to try, like today, my 4-year-old didn't want to put her car seat buckles on. She wanted me to do it for her and she's like very capable of doing it herself and I was like okay like you know I was trying to make it fun, I was trying to sing and then you know she would just like kind of cry to like get out of it and I was like and I think at one point I finally was like I see that you're like feeling really frustrated right now but I'm just letting you know like I'm gonna help you in different ways like I know you can do this but it's I
And
don't
that's
know where I was going
amazing.
with that
You're teaching her
but
resilience and that you're still gonna be there helping her, but she can do
yeah, but I just like I feel
it.
like ABA is like what I do all the time. Um, maybe not always realizing it because I feel like that's how I was trained too. Like when I'm not like trained uh RBT. Like I don't have I'm not that. Um, but getting like my special education teaching credential and all that stuff, there were like behavioral classes, study. I mean, there was things that we had to learn because I don't know where else I would have learned all this. And then I did end up doing NCPI. Do you guys know that? It's like non-crisis prevention intervention, something like that.
It sounds familiar.
It's one of those like um how to stay safe with like physical aggression kind of things. But and I think they've changed it because now I've been told that people like have these blue boards or something that they walk around. Have you heard of this either? But
You're
I think it's
supposed
more,
to walk around with a
it's like, I think it's like to protect yourself. If like,
Okay,
I'm not actually quite sure. I've just kind of like seen it on Facebook groups. But the class you have to take it if you have students that like have physical behaviors that could be dangerous, like for the staff or students in the classroom. And I do have to say, like, their biggest thing that they say is like, you know, like, no, like, you are doing everything in your power not to restrain the child. Like, they want it to be hands off. They teach you everything, like, on how to be hands off and how to support behavior and how to, like, you know, communicate, you know, all that stuff. But at the very end, you still learn restraints as like the last resort, um,
mhm.
which is still a thing. Again, I'm not sure where I'm going. This happens a lot.
Mhm.
I just go off on tangents in my own little head.
it's okay.
uh,
No, and yeah.
yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, I think that that's, in the event of a crisis, you have to be able to protect the child or the individual and yourself and others. So it's important to also know like when is it that I have to implement something of this degree, when it's appropriate or not, and how to. So I hope, I'm gonna look into what you just
Yeah,
said, um, just to learn more about it. But I think that's important too because you don't want to get hurt yourself, especially if you're supporting a teenager or someone that's, you know, strong.
yeah,
And in the school, it's almost even more difficult than if you were to be like in a home session or in the clinic environment because you have so many other students in the classroom as well that you also need to be protecting apart from your specific client and yourself. It's everybody
Mhm.
else in the room as well. So that's hard, but
Yeah.
that course is pretty interesting. And I haven't heard about the blue boards, but I definitely will look
Yeah,
into.
I know, and I haven't even like seen them be used. I've just heard about it in like my local Facebook group, like my school,
yeah.
whatever it
Where
is.
are you located, by the way, Kayla?
I'm in Vancouver, Washington. It's like
Oh,
southern Washington. We're right next to Portland, Oregon. You
Nice.
hop
okay.
over the
You're like
bridge.
all the way.
Yeah,
But I wanted to talk a little, like really quick about um some of the things that are like in our field, things that we use like prompting. We have like visual prompting, things like that, like hand over hand, um, partial physical prompt and things like that. I think again, it depends on how we are implementing these things. I have a client, a learner that loves hand over hand prompting. Like
yeah,
he will literally move his hand while he's coloring to have me help him. And I'm like, I love this, like and I'm just touching the pen and they're like he's going, but he wants that touch, that like connection. So I
yeah,
think then there's some that, don't touch me, okay, of course. But I also think that it really depends on what we're teaching, what the child is receptive to, and what they also want.
yeah,
We have wonderful, thing like God, and luckily that we have really beautiful relationships with all of our learners, and they trust us in a way that it's really beautiful to see. And we're just hanging out, playing with them, but just teaching
yeah.
them like in their living room, little things here and there, and throwing things so discreetly that to them they're just like, we're here for 2 hours just having fun. But to us,
Yeah.
we're like checking off data points in our head, and then like, but I mean, I'm also having fun, but that's what it looks like. That's what
I
it
feel
should
like
look like.
that's so much more, that's so important. And I was about to ask you more
Yes.
about hand over hand, but you basically answered all of it. So we got a dog and I just heard it whining outside, but I mean, it's with the family, so it's fine. Um, but yeah, because I was going to ask you about that, but then you described it perfectly because I'm sure you've seen that I always talk about hand under hand, not always.
Yes.
I talk about that a lot. And I have had people be like, but I have a kid that really likes it. I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm not like, it's just like a consent thing. Like, I'm just saying, to the people who come in and they're like, okay, write your name, do this, and just like move their hand. I'm
Yeah.
like, no one's learning anything. You're just like going through steps. That's not helpful.
And we talk a lot about assent. Have you heard of assent?
No. Is
So
it,
there's
let's say, is
consent.
it like fading out prompts? That's kind of what it made me think
No.
of, but okay.
So consent is that written, right? Like, okay, we're
Okay.
allowing, we're permitting this, right? Assent is something that's not written or even not speaking. It's not a vocal thing. It's something that is given to a provider or even, anyone that we're in contact with. Giving assent to someone means that you are willingly allowing them or to participate in whatever you're participating in. So
Okay.
all of our learners, and we are constantly monitoring their removal of a sense, right? And you can also use by body language. So it's like, turning or
Yeah.
whining, they've removed the scent. Like they don't want us in their space. Respect that. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not like finish this puzzle or, this is a task we have to do. It's be flexible. The scent is removed. You don't have the okay to go in and do a full physical prompt or to go in and push a puzzle in their little bubble. So
Yeah.
consent is often given in this like in this kind of space by parents, right? And they're signing and they're saying yes, and they're also saying vocally. And then there's assent, which is non-vocal, and it's just constantly can be removed or given. We just have to always monitor like what
Yeah.
what that looks like, and it's different for everyone.
Well, I actually, okay, so I saw a video once on Instagram that someone talked about how they practice nonverbal communication with their children of like consent. And so that basically is just what it sounds like, but it'd be like, okay, so the mom's standing there and is like, okay, so come give me a hug. And you tell me if it looks like I want a hug or not. And so sometimes she would like just like kind of have her head down or like her body kind of turned away. And so it was like walking through the steps of like, does it look like I want to be touched? Does it look like I want a hug? Like, and I love that so much because I have never really been a fan when people are like, when you're asking for consent, like yes means yes and no means no. Because like sometimes yes doesn't like it could feel like a forced yes, or it doesn't feel like a genuine yes, or and like anything that's not a yes is a no in my head. So it's like, and I feel like there's just so much more to it that it's like, they said yes, so it's fine. And I'm like, that's just not like we also need to like read each other's emotions or behaviors, and that it can change, and that like there's just more to it than like this simple yes or no. So I love how you just described that. That was amazing. Okay, we do have to wrap up. It
No, but
is
I'm super interested to see these cards.
yes. Okay, do you want me to do two separate ones, or do you want to do one together for um your
I think
company? Happy behavior.
we,
It's like
we
I don't know why I have to think of the B so much because it's like literally just say the word and I'm fine. But
um uh,
me,
we could do one if you want.
we could do one each. It really doesn't. I I'm here. My kids are getting bathed by their father. We're chilling. I could
We
stay
could
up
do
all
one.
night.
We're like forcing ourselves
I
to do.
know you guys. It's like what, 9? Oh yeah, it's late. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, tell me when to
We'll
stop
do one.
shuffling.
We'll do one for happy behavior.
Okay, tell me when to stop shuffling. Oh, did you say stop? I'm gonna, no, you know what? I felt good about this one. Okay. Ah, is it upside down? It's upside down. This is the Seven of Wands. Oh, there's no cat on
Upside
there. I'm
down. Oh,
sorry. I know it is
okay.
upside down, which someone told me
Uh-oh.
that that's like supposed to just like it's supposed to be like a time of like re-evaluating or I don't know. People try to explain to me the tarot cards. Maybe someday I'll actually learn more about them. As for
Something bad.
now, they're just
Mel looked it up. It's something bad.
She
already.
has it. She has it there. I would like to hear.
Well, no, I was gonna just tell you what the book says, but what does
No,
okay,
I want you to go first.
okay. Well, I just want to let you know that usually like the key words for when it's reversed are like not usually positive, but then the description make changes it. And then we like interpret our like, okay,
Okay.
you guys are looking really worried. It's just
I'm
fun. We're
stressed.
fun. We're fun tarot cards.
Should we just quit?
Just
Okay.
reshuffle,
So
reshuffle.
the reversed is it says giving up or losing control. And it says hold strong in the face of adversity. Your wand is bigger than the six pointed at you, and don't give up. So you need to fight to maintain your position. Don't let others bring you down or try to take away what you have worked so hard for. There may be setbacks in the process, but always stand up for what you truly believe in. Tarot. Um,
Wow.
Okay. I mean, I feel like that kind of even goes with like our conversation of like how I wanted to talk about ABA, that like, and you even said like you had those reels like go viral where people were like getting really upset about ABA, and you guys were like, no, let me explain and educate and let's have these conversations. So I don't know. I feel like you guys are doing this.
I think
I like it. I like it. So upside down, seven of wands. Not me doing some research up till like for an hour after this. But I like it. I need to link to those things so that I can. And if I don't like
Hold on.
them, if I don't like the one that I
just
pick,
shuffle and pick another one.
amnesia. Hello. Just go again.
Karina,
Oh
were
my,
you about to say something?
probably, but I forgot.
Okay. You looked like you were about to.
Yeah.
Because it's yeah. So it is like it's all like interpretation. So when you go to like a tarot card reader, they pick it and then they're like they try to interpret all of them, which I gotta probably get better at doing if I'm gonna keep doing this at the end of my podcast episodes instead of me sitting here looking through my book like, okay, let me tell you what this says.
No, I think it was I really like that part of it. Like, because it's like this is new for all of us. We're gonna do this together.
Yes, we're
We're
all
all learning.
learning.
And now I feel like I believe it even more because you're reading it from the book
Ooh,
versus like someone holding it up and be like, "Oh, this means that," and then
I'm
you just
like, you're
yeah,
making
I'm
that
like,
up.
"That's fake."
Like if
that's
I were
true.
to make it up, I would say like Seven of Wands. You're gonna have magical powers by tomorrow. Go to
By
sleep
tomorrow.
In 7 hours.
with one sock on, one sock off. Hair in a ponytail. And tomorrow you wake up with magical powers.
That's perfect. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you both of you so much for staying up late and being on this podcast episode. And I will put like your social media handle so people can reach out to you and hopefully learn more from you two. I know I've learned
Thank
a
you.
lot. And
Thank
by
you so much.
Likewise, thank you for having us.
This was awesome. You're so fun.
oh, stop it. You guys are so fun. Let's all hang out.
No, you're fun. Right.
Thank you again for everybody who has listened to this podcast. I am so excited to keep it going 2025. We have so many more great episodes coming your way. So make sure you are subscribed. If you can rate this podcast, that would mean so much to me, as it will get seen and or heard by more people. So I hope you have a great day. Inclusion starts with you, and I just want to help.